preparing the live stream. There you go. All right, welcome everyone. Today is Thursday, July 13th, 2023. We're going live on YouTube via Zoom. And this is, don't want the echo here. So again, I'm Sanjay Dalal, the founder and CEO of oGoing. Welcome everyone to our business roundtable and fireside chat. And how's everyone doing?
So far, so good.
All right, Coach Smith is here. Our newly fifth-time author, I would say five-time author. I don't know what's the right word, but Dr. Crawford is here as well. Thank you, Dr. Crawford, for attending. And we have Kashmira here as well. Kashmira, how are you doing? And we have more folks joining as I speak. So we will do a quick roundtable as well. But before we do, let me share with you a couple of things I wanted to share first. And we have, of course, our main keynote speaker, Coach Sturdy McKee, and he's going to enlighten us, on the power of clarity in business. And he's also a new author, and by the same book, although there's a little more to it, and we'll talk about that, and the book is live on Amazon. I'm going to share with you the live book on Amazon, as well as Dr. Crawford's new book is live on Amazon as well. I'm surrounded by authors here. I feel very intimidated now, just kidding. Thank you all for attending. And so let me share my screen quickly and officially welcome everyone. There you go. So that's today's topic, the power of clarity in business. And again, oGoing Business Roundtable and Fireside Chat. But I like this byline, stop being a mind reader. Love that. And I want to share with you a quote first, which is on the presentation, but also I want to share one of my favorite quotes of all time as well. But this one is by Mr. Steve Maraboli, and he's also a very famous author as well as a speaker. Sturdy is nodding. Coach Sturdy is nodding his head, so I think he knows him well. I don't know him that well, but I know he's an entity to be recognized. And he says the best way to succeed is to have a specific intent, a clear vision, a plan of action, and the ability to maintain clarity. And that's the topic for today, the power of clarity. And those are the four pillars of success. It never fails. Steve Maraboli. Now, there's another quote which I love, which is not there in here, but I'm going to ask you who said this for fun, and let's see who can get the right answer. Well, maybe I'll give you some brownie points. So this is a quote. There are three classes of people: those who see when they are shown, and those who do not see. And please don't Google this. So. Who has the answer to this? Who do you think might have said this? There are three classes of people: those who see.
I'll say Rumi.
Who's that, Arthur?
I said Rumi.
No.
No.
It's those who see when they are shown, and those who do not see. It's actually by an age-old innovator. Probably everybody would recognize him. It's and a great painter as well. Is Leonardo da Vinci. Actually, he said this way back. And of course, the challenge with all these quotes is what I don't have is a lot of context around which he would have said this. And what would have been great is the story behind this quote, or when did he say this? Was it in an event, or did he just write up this in a book? But in any case, if somebody finds that out later on, do let me know, because I'm always curious about folks like Leonardo and how and what they meant for the mankind and the humanity as we know. So oGoing, many of us are on oGoing active members. So again, thank you for joining our growing business community. We have just crossed, I haven't announced this to the external world yet, but we have just crossed 135,000 members now on the community, slowly but surely growing. We have a long ways to go still to achieve stardom, but we are getting there one day at a time, one business owner at a time. That's how I look at things. I'm not looking at quantity. I'm looking at making sure everybody has a great experience. So yes, it's 135K now, and And why are businesses joining and members joining our community? It's really to promote their businesses, share their stories. And when you do that, it really helps you boost your website traffic, your social media, SEO, which is search engine optimization. You get found more and ahead of your competition on the likes of Google, Bing, Yahoo, and so on. And of course, ultimately connect with all our other business owners and participants. So please do join the community and share your stories. If you have any questions while you're joining or run across any issues, come and talk to me and I'll be happy to get you going. These are the roundtables as they happen in person. And I have promised you we're going to start doing some of this starting fall. So yes, the dates will be announced soon and the venue as well. So I'm sure you're all going to be the first to know. But what I want to do is the roundtable here with everybody in attendance now. So let me go ahead and stop the share here and go and enjoy a few moments with each one of us. So let's start with Dr. Crawford. Dr. Crawford, go ahead, please. Introduce yourself and share a few stories, please. Yeah.
Oh, hello. I'm so glad to be here. I'm a transformational coach. That's what I like to think of myself, and author of 6 books now and motivational speaker. I teach the power of wholeness.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Bad timing for that.
I teach the power of wholeness to professional and entrepreneurial men and women who want to feel more balanced, focused, and empowered in their lives. And I can certainly see the similarity or the integration, which is part of my process of clarity with the fact that we have wholeness within us. My whole concept has to do with that we have many subpersonalities and that they hold opposing beliefs. So those opposing beliefs show up outside of us in terms of our reality. Since the beliefs create our thoughts create our emotions, and our emotions create our actions and our decisions. And thus we create our lives. So if you want to know what you believe, look around you. And you'll find out whether in the 4 cornerstones of life, you have all the health you need, the wealth, the love, and the self-expression. So if anyone's interested in learning a little bit more about this, what I consider a very different way of thinking, because all of those subpersonalities think they're helping you. They don't think they're hurting you. They're not trying to stop you. They think they're helping you. And that has been such a huge benefit in my life to be able to do my integration process for myself and other people. So that's me.
Absolutely, and recommend everybody to look at her new book on Amazon, The Power of Wholeness. And I've started reading it as an ebook. I'm a huge fan of ebook readers. And I'm still, I think I promised Dr. Crawford, I'm going to finish it soon and give you, my feedback. And I'm so far on chapter 3, so I haven't done the whole feedback yet. But I love everything I've read so far. So thank you, Dr. Crawford, for an amazing book.
Thank you.
And looking forward to completing it soon. We have also a business coach here, and I would say the most recognized coach of Orange County, Coach Steve Smith. Coach, go ahead, please. Is that a good title?
Sanjay, I should hire you to be my PR specialist. Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see everybody. My name is Steve Smith, and my company is Growth Source Coaching. I am pretty hardcore in leadership and management within a business. So the clients that I typically work with now can be anywhere from mid-sized corporations down to people who have gotten off the blackboard and are in the market and are now trying to figure out how to tune up what they've started. My sole focus is to help people develop the confidence to be able to show up in any situation, do their best work, feel good about where they're going with things, and just take ownership for the role that they have, whether it's a C-level role, a VP director level role, or lately I've been getting a lot of calls for companies who have new management teams. And these folks have been elevated because they were great technicians, but they're struggling to now lead others. And so that's kind of where I live. I also have a podcast that I do with my son. He's in business. He's obviously several generations behind me, but we broadcast once a week. It's called the Business Wingmen. And so I'm kind of the sage, he's the young upstart. And so we kind of battle through, professional development issues in hopes of giving people a little bit of insight as to how to fix what might be ailing them. So Sanjay, thank you for doing this. I love these little virtual fireside chats, but I'm feverishly waiting for the in-person variety to show up.
And some great Indian food. So coming up soon, my friend.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Coach Smith. And by the way, Coach, if you don't mind, do share the link to your podcast, because I think, it will be wonderful for some of us to actually see it in action every Friday, you said, right? Yeah.
Every Tuesday at 4
Every
p.m.
Tuesday. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'll put it in the chat box for you.
Yeah, that'll be great. We have also joining us today, Alok Nath. Alok, how are you? Long time, sir. Alok, can you share? Might be on mute.
Sorry, I said yes. It's been a long time since I've attended one of these, but I've been busy. So, as I'm sure all of you have.
Alok is a very active and well, you can talk about your business. Go ahead, Alok.
Yeah. So I lead a company that has an online shipping platform for e-commerce businesses. So it's an online SaaS platform.
Yep.
And we are at this critical point where we need to sort of get to the next level of growth. And so trying to figure out all the pieces to the puzzle that will help us get there.
Alok, great. And Alok, send me a note afterwards. I have a customer in mind for you. They're also local, and it's one of our charter member companies as well. So,
okay, great. I will. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Alok, for joining. Good to see you. Love the shirt. Okay.
Oh, I'm promoting somebody else's company here.
It's all right. It's hopefully we'll help you with SEO. Just kidding. We have Mr. Akbar here, Akbar Kara. Akbar, can you please share if you are able to get online, Akbar?
Yes. I am actually in my office, which is getting taken apart.
All right. I love the office, bro.
Yeah. So my house is getting painted. We're downsizing. So what would you like me to talk about?
About you, your business, anything. Just it's your forum, my
friend. I've been I've been in nonprofit academia space for the last 30 years, essentially enabling infrastructure for hospitals and for universities. And my last stint was with Lone Star Education and Research Network, which is a regional optical network purpose-built for research and education.
Awesome.
It provided services to all the research universities and all the even K through 12 and community colleges with unrestricted pipes so that they can accomplish their mission. I was there for 14 years as a CTO and then 4 years as a CEO. Wow. And it's almost 30 years since I started my career, so I'm taking a little a break and try to figure out the next phase of my life. I have no idea how I ended up connecting with you online. I think it was through LinkedIn, but I'm grateful for it, and I appreciate the group and the knowledge that's being shared here. So, but by the way, I'm based out of a suburb of Dallas. I'm here in very hot Texas right now.
We are steaming up here, my friend. 90 for us is like things are breaking down now. So we are not used to the heat here in Southern California. So, but yes, I've been hearing things. It's outrageous in Texas. So hanging there and stay cool. And love the shirt, by the way, stepping out. So it's interesting part of what you're trying to do here. So I can always talk about what people are wearing. Maybe I should stop doing that. Sorry.
No, it's actually it's power of your observation. Yeah, keep sharing. I think it's fun.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We have let's talk to Sonal here. Sonal Ladwa. Sonal, how are you? Can you come online? I think Sonal sometimes in the middle of. Okay, we'll come back to Sonal.
Hi,
that's
can
nice.
you
Yeah, we
hear
can hear
me?
you. Go ahead.
I'm driving, so I'm obviously not on video for that, but
That's fine.
I couldn't have missed this one. So thank you, Sanjay, for this. My company name is Toki, Tokii, and it's a patented toothbrush with a attached sliding tongue scraper. It's a family startup. We just started a year and a half back. We're currently, selling online on our website as well as Amazon and Walmart Marketplace, etc. So I'm always happy to be here, waiting to see what Sturdy has to say about clarity, and hope to get a lot as usual. So
Thank
thanks, Sanjay.
you. Thank you, Sonal, for joining. And I know you can't add any chat today, but I will add on your behalf the Toki toothbrush on Amazon. Just search on Amazon. It's a fantastic patented brush which I would recommend because it's part of a good healthy hygiene. So thank you, Sonal, for joining us. And let's talk to Mr. Ashok Madan. Ashokji, how are you, sir? Go ahead, Ashokji. Ashokji, we can't hear you. Is your voice not coming through? I think we'll come back to you. Let's talk to Hemant Varudkar. Hemant, how are you? Long time.
Hi, Sanjay. Yes, long time. I've always been meaning to join one of these calls that you set up and haven't had a chance, but I just returned from my trip to Iceland. And so I'm like, really thought, let me see what clarity I can get from your conversation.
Thank you, Hemant. Hemant, how was Iceland? Are you hot now or are you icy cool? Sorry.
From -4 degrees Celsius to 24 degrees Celsius is a change.
Yeah.
But it was excellent
Trip. That's great. I'm glad I did that like 2 years ago now, I think, and I think one of the most memorable trips. Expensive but memorable. So,
yeah, it's kind of funny, isn't it? How expensive that place is.
Welcome back, though. And Hemant, how is your business? And maybe do a quick sharing about what you do.
Yeah, so I run a company called Express Analytics, and we specialize in advanced analytics, AI, ML for retailers in the marketing and sales analytics space. So we have a platform on which you can collect all data from all channels as a retailer and then analyze them to make sure that you understand what your customers are saying and are they being serviced properly.
Well, that'll be great. I think, Ashok, Hemant, you can help some value to some of the participants today. So I'm glad you joined because data is everything, isn't it? I'm reading more and more that the key is to get the right type of data and then make sense of that. So this is great. Yeah.
Yeah, interestingly, I was on a vacation to Iceland and I was looking for data centers. Hey, this is a good place to create a data center.
Yeah, use the natural. You're right. The weather, it's much cheaper there. That's a good point. Good point, Hemant. Great to have you back. And let's go on to now Mr. Jeet Mehta. Jeet, how are you?
Hey, Sanjay, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah. I think it's great joining you and knowing about all the perspective from great entrepreneurs here. Overall, well, I'm in the different space, as you might know, right? I'm in the IT leadership in a pen company. You guys all might be familiar. about Bear company. I mean, if you go to Home Depot, I mean, you'll see the couple of files filled up with all the, Bear product,
It's a monopoly, Jeet. It's like the biggest baker. Don't just say.
Yes, you can say that.
Are you sharing us a discount coupon here? Let's put it this way.
Well, yeah, I do get a limited amount every year, and one of my friend actually he bought a house recently, and he pretty much adjusted my quota.
Okay, fair enough.
Pretty much, I got like almost $1,500, every year where I can help, buy pens, and I got almost a 35 to 40% discount from the normal
Fantastic.
price.
So, folks, if you're looking into painting your house or repainting, you know who to talk to.
I can,
Yeah.
I can definitely use my quota to help you guys out. I mean, I still have $100 left just in case if somebody's interested. But yeah, overall, I'm here. I'm managing like a couple of teams in Salesforce space, which is CRM, right? And then another one is on Microsoft side. I've been like Microsoft, developer, architect, then leader from last 20 years. Starting from Azure, C#, .NET. Now I'm managing the teams of Power Platform, where so Power Platform is an amazing tool, which is like from last couple of years, really, Microsoft is really pushing hard everybody to adapt to it, because it can really create some kind of application which is more even at enterprise level, where you can create application in few weeks and you can go live. Is very, very powerful. And I think a lot of people are catching up, the certification going on. And I would say this is going to be the next wave.
Power Platform?
Power Platform, yes, Microsoft Platform. Okay. So there will be like 4 different components to it. Just to
who will be the main user of that, Jeet, if I may ask? Or who will be the ideal user?
I would say this is more internal app within the company. So I would say mid-size to small to mid-size companies. It will be an amazing tool because what happens, imagine like this. We go out always and we keep having all different new vendors, right? Third-party vendors, we keep buying their product, right? How about if we create those products from within, right? And where it doesn't take a lot of code, a lot of development work, and you can, go live and you save so much money in subscription costs, right? Here you just pay the subscription cost of Microsoft platform and you will create application. So we have created application here in all the departments, whether it's HR, like, business side, marketing side, sales, manufacturing side, supply chain. So we have application built up in all different departments using Microsoft platform. So again, just to want to give the power. And there's a Power BI, by the way. Power BI is part of Power Platform.
Power BI. No, thanks, Jeet, for the info and welcome to the oGoing Roundtable. I appreciate you joining, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
And let me have Mr. Satish talk about his company. Satish, how are you? He's a board member of ASCI National, as well as an active member here with many different community organizations, but he has his own company. Satish, go ahead, please.
Hey, thanks, Sanjay. Good to be here. So I'm the CEO of Connext. So we are basically a software product company. We're a SaaS mobile applications for asset inspection, maintenance, and reporting. We've been in business about 8 years. Our customers are folks like Los Angeles Metro, BC Transit. We work with UPS, United Road. So essentially, anyone that has heavy assets that are either fixed or moving, they use us for their inspections and maintenance and reporting. So that's what we do. I look forward to this session here. I apologize for switching off my camera. So I'm actually between calls. So this is the only opportunity I have to grab a bite to eat. So it's nothing much. It's just bread here, but I'm sure you don't want to see me eating. So, but really glad to be here. I look forward to it.
Thank you,
Sanjay, for pulling this together, as always.
And again, Satish is a great business owner, very great person to hang out with and converse on many topics. And his better up, by the way, is a big-time non-profit owner as well, or a developer of for women's non-profit. And again, great to have your acquaintance, Satish. Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Sanjay. Thank you so much for pulling this together. Look forward to it.
Appreciate it. And who have I missed? Arthur. Arthur, go ahead, please. Sorry, formally. and we'll come back.
Okay, I'm here, Sanjay. It's good to see
Arthur,
you.
go ahead and introduce yourself, please. Yeah.
Yeah, so my name's Arthur Tassinello. I'm an author of several books. My books are about basically love. It's about kindness, what we can do for each other to help each other grow and have a more.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ashokji, you are good. So I'll give you a moment right after Arthur is done, sir. Thank you.
I just fixed my audio. Sorry.
Okay, good. No, you're loud and clear. Thank you. Good.
So yeah, so as an author, I like to work with organizations that need real leadership. As I find out today, and over the many decades that I've been in business, that a lot of people are called managers, and they believe that they need to micromanage people when we need more leadership, more people that understand how to help their employees, not micromanage them. And it goes much deeper than that. But I also work with nonprofits, and I like to speak to the groups and the people in nonprofits, and again, to help them grow. I'm working now with Speak Up for Kids, and trying to help these orphaned kids through life a little bit better. So I do a lot of things, but again, my books and my passion is all about helping us, helping people, and helping organizations be better at what they do and have more success in that.
That's great, Arthur, and thanks for sharing about some of the community activities you do. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. So, and now let's talk to Ashok Madanji. Ashok, go ahead, please. Your mic is good.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Ashok Madan. I'm just here to learn whatever I can. I am basically a real estate investor. My background is in IT. I retired from County of Los Angeles as an IT manager after 34 years of service there. But throughout, since early 70s, I've been involved with family in investing in real estate, and we are doing pretty good. And I'm very actively still investing and doing real estate transactions of all different types, commercial, residential, shopping centers, and whatnot. Part of it passive investments, and some are very active investments. That's my background. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashokji, for joining. And Ashokji is also a board member of several community organizations here, and gives back a lot to the community through his leadership and a lot of wisdom. So thank you, Ashokji, for being here. Really appreciate it. And so now let me formally introduce our speaker and our topic for the day: the power of business clarity, or power of clarity in business for entrepreneurs and business leaders. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Coach Sturdy McKee. And Coach Sturdy is an experienced and accomplished business coach. I've known him for many years now, and ultimately he has over 20 years of leadership experience in business. And believe it or not, he has or had, and we can ask him now, is physical therapy practice, which grew to 6 locations within, I believe, the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. And he's a graduate of eMyth Worldwide's Mastery Impact Program. And
you don't need to read all that, Sanjay.
And a certified consulting partner. But what I like is he helps a lot of entrepreneurs, which is what he's very active with in the Bay Area and beyond, and now online. And a couple of books which you can see right behind him, The Best Small Business in the World, and the new book on the power of clarity in business, Nobody's a Mind Reader. With that, Coach Sturdy McKee, how are you, sir?
Thanks, Sanjay. I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me. Thank you so much for organizing this.
No, this is so wonderful to see you after a while on Zoom, and I would call this face-to-face until we actually meet face-to-face in the city one of the days. My daughter is in the city now, so I have to, when I come and visit her, of course, I want to come and see you at that time.
Yes, please. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Take you to the real parts, not the stuff that's on the news, and not the tourist places, but all the beautiful parts of the city.
Yeah, some of the real places. There you go. Exactly. Yeah. And so wanted to first jump into it right away. I mean, it's an amazing journey you've had, right? In terms of from running a physical therapy business, and then learning a lot from that, and then somewhere along the way you said, let's share some of this knowledge. You kind of, I think you had a phase in between where you were still, advising and as a consultant, but now you're almost, I would say, a full-time business coach for local entrepreneurs as well as online. So maybe give us a little sampling of that, like how did that happen, and what are some of the insights from that part of the journey?
Sure. I mean, so I've been doing full-time coaching advising for about 7 years. And I'll give you guys a rundown of how this book came about and the topic and stuff in a second too. But basically, the short version of the story is we were at the beach in Hawaii one day, tearing all the stuff down for the kids. And I said something about retirement, and my wife literally burst out laughing at me and said, "You're never going to retire." And which kind of ruined my day at the beach, right? Because I'm sitting there thinking, because as soon as she said it, I thought, yeah, you're right. But then that begged the question, well, what's next? What's going to happen, after? Because I'm not gonna, but I don't want to be doing this for the next 40 years or whatever, right? So basically, I'm doing my retirement job, and I've been doing it kind of earlier than I expected. But I love helping business owners. And I love helping people, and that's why I went into physical therapy in the first place, and that's a whole nother story. But yeah, in growing the business, one of the things that I think most people here can relate to, if not yourself, your clients and all, is we go out and start businesses not really knowing much about the business because we're good at the thing we do. And I was the quintessential E-Myth kind of person. I was good technically, clinically, went out to try my own business because I didn't like what was going on, around me, and struggled pretty hard for the first few years, right? Trying to figure it out. We were working hard, really, really busy, long hours, and still weren't really getting ahead or doing anything. So when I started going outside of that industry to learn more about business and tools, we turned it around really, really quickly. And that's something I spent the next, 15 plus years continuing to learn, both formal and informal. And one of the little secrets too that I discovered was when I joined EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, and I was a board member in San Francisco and did a bunch of roles and stuff there, but I was in that for about 10 years. And what I learned was that 80-90% or more of all the things we deal with in business are the same. Right? It doesn't really matter the industry. We're still managing people. We're still trying to acquire customers. We're still trying to message and relate to people. All the moving parts are essentially the same. There's some industry specific stuff, but that's that other 10%. And that for me was a bit of an epiphany as well. But realizing that, these things cross over. And that's why I love working with a variety of business owners now, because again, the majority of the stuff we all deal with is the same.
That's a great point. And I mean, you mentioned jumping into the business and the first few years, like really figuring out, what to do, how to go about it. And, I'd recently shared an ebook where I derived some principles from the Bhagavad Gita and said, what are some things entrepreneurs should be thinking about? But before I even got to the principle, I was looking at the overall stats of what happens to small businesses in years 1 through 5. And you and I know, like 65% plus, they don't stick around. They actually go down, right? Or they
right.
fail. And there are many reasons given as to why they fail. And I think that comes back to the central question of the day, which we'll just jump into it right away. Is this clarity? Why is clarity then so important and relevant? And why is it important in all of our businesses? And could these business owners have done things differently if they had, let's say, more clarity going into it? So I guess it's a two-part question.
No, absolutely. And I want to, one of the things I did, so this is the book, and I'll post a link for you guys as well. But let me start with a quick story. I won't break the whole thing down, but the embarrassing story that I start the book with is that my wife and I were together for about probably 8 years, right? We were dating and then engaged and then married for a couple of years before I realized that she expected me to read her mind.
Oh,
Okay. And
well,
what
okay.
so I mean,
I think to all the married people, how's that going?
yeah, well, yeah, I already saw a couple smiles and laugh. But what I did was I turned around to her one day and kind of, in one of those moments and said, look, if you'll just tell me exactly what you expect, at least then I can choose to disappoint you, right? Because I'm disappointing you anyway by default right now. So at least lay it out and then I can make a choice, right? So anyway, that's not the most embarrassing part. The most embarrassing parts are really that it took 2 more years for me to realize I was doing the same thing at work and running my company. And by the way, it only took 20 more years to realize, hey, this should be the book. So it's been a slow progression of a principle that's been super important, but one that's paid off. And what I want to do is kind of take you through a little bit of a sequence here, because what I realized was I've also flipped the sequence, because when starting with clients back in the beginning, we used to go big picture, higher purpose, all that kind of stuff immediately, and people weren't a lot of times just not ready or didn't see the relevance, or that was pie in the sky kind of stuff. So let's make it really tactical in the beginning. And what I've done with the book is flipped it as well. And we start with, why is clarity important for your staff, for your team, right? And has anybody here ever watched a Little League game? Ever been to a Little League game? Just yes in the chat or tell us. You ever seen a kid at first base let that ball go sailing right over their head while they plant their foot firmly on the base?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Some worrying moments too when that happens.
Sure. So, but if you really break it down and you say, well, what's the priority? What's more important, the base or the ball? The player may or may not know, right? But does the coach know? Because if we step back and look at it, it's pretty obvious the ball is more important, right? And for those who aren't super familiar with baseball, if you catch the ball, even if you don't get the out, the runner stops at first, right? If you don't catch the ball, the runner proceeds right on to second and maybe past, maybe beyond. So you're limiting the damage. If you can't do it exactly right, at least you can limit the damage by getting the ball and, stopping the run. But if that, we've all seen that happen. And then my question to you is, whose fault is that?
Oh, don't have enough skills to catch the ball, then it's a coaching fault. If it's
it may not know, right?
We don't know. There are many variables here. Yeah.
Right, but it's the coach's fault, because if the kid doesn't know the priorities, they haven't been taught.
Yeah.
Okay, or the other side of that is maybe they have, and maybe the coach has gone over this with them 7 times and they're still doing that. That's also the coach's fault, because why is that kid at first base? Because if you'll kind of approach exactly right. Nobody's created the clarity. You haven't laid it out. What's the priority? And that's kind of my challenge to all of you is, if you think about your teams and your staff, or the people you're consulting, coaching, working with, what are the 2 most important things that they do in their jobs? And if I went around to your teams and I asked them, would they be able to tell me? Okay. And, you mentioned I ran PT clinics. We had 6 locations and 50 employees almost, all around San Francisco and outside. But I went over and asked, I was talking with another business owner, and I went over next door to the clinic and asked my front desk person, what are the 2 most important things you do? And she gave me a list of 13 things, right? And I realized at that point as well, oh boy, we need to go back. Yeah, so yeah, if managers are saying everything's a priority, then nothing's a priority, right? We know that. So, and yes, we all have a lot to do. But if you break down the positions of the players and look at what their primary responsibilities are, and for a lot of folks, they've gone back and they've looked at the KPIs, like you're responsible for these 2 KPIs. Well, we can't manage the metrics, right? The metrics are a result, they're an outcome, and they're an outcome of the right player doing the right process and doing it well. So if we have good plays, we have good processes, and the players are executing well, the score should take care of itself. I mean, Bill Walsh wrote that book years ago, The Score Takes Care of Itself. The whole premise was right players in the right positions, doing the right things, running the right plays, we will win more games than not, right? And, the guy has a couple Super Bowls to show for it and all that too, right? So if we simply apply these principles and really, and by the way, Arthur, in your intro, man, I think we're really directing command and control stuff. That stuff's gone. And our jobs are to act more as coaches, and coaches do hold people accountable. They do push people, but they also believe in them. The good ones have their back. They're there to support them. They provide the training and the resources, all the things they need. But again, without the clarity and the prioritization, how does your player know what to do to succeed? So, and the player needs to know, the managers, the coaches need to know, but that's a critical component to kind of beginning this conversation about, are you or any of us doing the same things I did early on, walking around the business being disappointed in the results or what people were doing, however, not being explicit and telling them what we expected.
That's a great insight. I mean, I think, and I've stumbled onto this so many times again and again. So I think I'm already learning from this. So thank you. Yes. And I think that goes to the next question. You talked about people and players, or people in jobs or workplace players, if you have a team, sports team, if you may. So I think the question is, my team knows their job. So now you're saying the team knows the team goals, if you may, what they're supposed to be doing. But then what is the role of clarity in those scenarios, right? So how do you translate maybe a team job to an individual job or vice versa? And how does that all fit in? Because many times I think companies are either vague or deliberately vague. I don't know, what's your thought on that?
Well, see, so for a lot of us, I love the sports analogies, and I like baseball as an example for the businesses in particular, because baseball is an execution sport. Okay, there's a limited amount of places where you're going to be truly innovative and change up how you're doing things. It's not quite it's not as free flowing as soccer, football, that kind of thing, right? But so really the team that does well is the one that executes extremely well. And for most of us, that's kind of our businesses. Unless we're on to a totally new venture, creating something that's never been done before. But again, even if we're creating a product or a service that's never been done before, and but still 80% of the business is the same, right? All the underpinnings and the foundational components and all that stuff are the same. We're still hiring, we're still marketing, we're still, managing, leading people, all that stuff. Then it's really about execution. And a lot of people are simply doing it wrong or not. Here's the part about clarity, the prioritization. So again, back to the base versus ball, right? If I have a front desk person at a clinic, what is the most important thing they do? Okay, and it's super simple, by the way. Once you see this or hear it, you will, it will make sense and you will never forget it. But it's to schedule new patients, right? Because the rest of that list of 13 things or 28 or 72 that they do don't happen if there are no new patients, right? None of the other stuff happens. So they've got to have that new customer coming in and starting their journey or their relationship with the physician or the PT or whoever in order for everything else to work. So, but they don't have that clarity, and very often, right? And basically, it doesn't mean the other things don't need to get done. It means that when you don't have time, because we all run out of time and we're all operating in overwhelm, there's too much stuff to do. Don't let that be the thing that gets pushed. Right?
Very true.
If you got 7 things to do and 5 more minutes to do it before you're leaving today, the one that gets done is the most important thing.
No, so be very specific in terms of that goes to the next question is the goals, right? So clarity happens when at least we should know what goals I have. You mentioned KPIs earlier, right? So how does kind of goal setting, if you may, are they tied together? Clarity with goal setting, or what comes first?
Yeah, well, so I think context, right? Seeing how it works for the player and how that's important, gives us some relevance, right? But yeah, we want to set our BHAG, we want to set our 3-year miles, strategic priorities. We want to go to our 1-year goals, and we want to break that down into quarterly priorities. I want my players to understand how they contribute to that. Okay, I want to bring those to life. Now, the most interesting thing I found out about that goal setting, so like even for the companies that do strategic planning, that do a quarterly, these are the 3 things we're going to pursue over the next 90 days kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sanjay, it's like 80% of those companies, those 3 things do not align to the ultimate big picture goals.
Interesting.
Isn't that crazy? I figured out since then why that happens, what the dysfunctions are that create that. But even of the companies and the organizations that do the planning, they're running down a path that isn't getting them to their ultimate destination. And, again, clarity, specificity is important, but alignment is critically important here too. But if you as an individual contributor see how what you do contributes to the journey of the organization and the team, that starts to bring you to an understanding of the meaningfulness of the work that you're doing. Right. And we're in an environment. I mean, Gallup just released their latest poll in February, right? They've been doing this employee engagement poll since 1987. And it's bounced up and down like 5 or 6%, but it's essentially the same. And 70% of American employees are not engaged at work.
Disengaged.
And they keep
the main reason is they're disconnected overall.
Well, right, they're disconnected, but I have a different theory on the main reason, because the things they tell you, and the things they tell you, by the way, are important. Like there are 5 or 6 things that you should do to improve engagement. But what I'm kind of experimenting with and looking at is, if those things really worked by themselves, it wouldn't still be 70%. Right? We would have seen the needle move, maybe not fixed it, but we would have seen a trend in the right direction. So the solution is not treating the problem. So I think the core of the root cause is a bit different. Part of that, though, for everybody here is selection. When we talked about the coaching analogy and the team analogy and stuff, right? Are you choosing players who want to be the best in their position? Right? Who are inspired by your vision, who align with the values, who fit with the culture and want to be the best in their position. And if you pick those players, now we're back to kind of what Arthur said earlier about our job as managers is really to be that coach, we've all had bad managers. So I think that's a terrible model, right? And there's a lot of bad leaders and managers out there, and not really even because of their fault, because they're modeling after what they've seen, and and it's been done wrong. It's top down, command and control, directives, do it this way. We decided in this, the executive staff decided this is where we're going. They're not being inclusive. They're not listening to people. They're not there to support them. They're not getting buy-in from their own teams, because you can say these are the 2 priorities in the position, but you've got to ask that player, is that your understanding? Are you willing to do it? Do you want to? And back to the baseball analogy, if you have a catcher, what's a catcher's primary responsibility? Keep the ball in front of them, right? They call pitches perhaps, and they do other things, but if they can't literally catch the ball, they've got to stop it to limit the damage. If you have a catcher who's dodging out of the way of the ball because they don't want to get hit anymore, that's not a great catcher, right? They might be a great shortstop, right? Or outfielder or something else, but they're not your catcher. And we sit here and we tell him, you got to block the ball, Billy, right? And he's sitting there jumping out of the way. And if the coach leaves them in that position and doesn't resolve that, that's, again, we're back to the coach and leadership's fault.
I see. And so, understood, you're right. The disengagement is high, 70%. I've been seeing those polls myself. I'm like, how does this
why hasn't it changed, though?
It doesn't change much, you're right. It just wobbles between high 60s or low 70s pretty much.
Right. Right.
So, so you're saying one reason is that even though we have hired the people on the teams, they are not as satisfied with the roles they have been given. That's a real possibility. So they're doing the work, but they're not necessarily loving the work.
Well, they may not find meaning in the work because they don't know how they contribute.
Okay.
They may not understand, and this is where we get, ultimately to the high, so the 2 other things you address in the book are your target customer and the higher purpose. So the higher purpose, the reason the company exists, the reason the organization exists, if they don't know what that is, and it's not repeated over and over, because you can't say it once, you can't write it down and put it on a wall, it doesn't work. It has to come to life in the business. It has to be the real reason that we all show up to do this. And here's one for everybody to kind of shake you up again and wake you up. People don't work for money.
No.
Right. So I know there are a bunch of little voices. And by the way, if you want to know what a little voice is, it's that voice in your head going, yeah, they do. So that's the little voice, but people don't work for money. And I do this, I've been, in front of a couple hundred business owners and stuff, and I say that, and you can just feel them like tense up and grumble and want to object and whatever. I'm like, okay, stop. How many of you volunteer? Right? For Little League, for the school, site council, for your church group, for a Sierra Club, whatever. How many of you volunteer? Right? And yeah, the bricklayer story, exactly, Blaine. So, but, and their hands start going up all over the place. Like, you don't get paid for that. Why do you do it? It's because you believe in whatever the purpose, the mission, the vision of the organization is. Right? And but imagine this, Sanjay, if we could marry that, the paycheck and the incentives and the benefits and the security and all that good stuff with a reason for showing up and doing things, dude, that synergy right there. Imagine the engagement level changes that could be happening. And by the way, the other side of that coin is there will be people that don't like where you're going.
Oh,
fine.
Interesting.
Well, that's, what we didn't mention, right? So a couple other things like that 70% disengagement. It's like 18% are actively disengaged, meaning that if you're rowing a boat and you have 10 rowers, 7 of them aren't rowing, but 2 of them are in the back drilling holes in the boat or smacking other people, right?
Oh.
So how do you get where you want to go if those are the numbers? And here's the other one. I know we're a very global kind of group. It's worse globally.
Wow.
It's 80% of global employees are disengaged at work.
Okay.
Fortunately, the actively disengaged are about the same, like 18 and 19%. But again, those are crazy numbers, and they don't, you're not making the connection. So us as leaders, building companies, building organizations, we need to be explicit about this stuff. And we need to make sure that it's actually paid attention to, that our integrity, that fidelity to the purpose, the values, the clarity of the job, that we stick with it. And, if we're wrong, we make a correction and what have you, but you can't tell somebody these are the priorities, this is how you contribute, and then go down another path and do something different. You undermine your own integrity as a leader.
No, I love the sports analogies, by the way. So I had a question for you. Is there a particular sports team or a business, if you can give an example of that, where you see this working really well, and then counter that with you think where it's not working well? Maybe don't give a name for that, but something like that.
I got lots of them. This is part of why I love watching what's going on. And people get really, I'm going to use a more neutral one, because people get super emotional. It's like telling them their Apple computer or their Tesla car stinks, right? They'll like, no, regardless of anything else, right? So I'm going to stay away from, the Giants and the Warriors and the Lakers and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But so here's a great example, and this is one where anybody here familiar with rugby?
Rugby, yeah.
Yeah. So the New Zealand All Blacks, right? The New Zealand All Blacks are the national rugby team. They have a clear set of core values that created clarity around their culture and what's expected of everybody in the organization, not just the players, but leadership to the lawn keeper to the equipment water boy, all of it, everybody. They're expected to behave in certain ways. They're expected to hold up a certain standard. They're expected to do, their jobs. They're clear about what the roles are, all that other stuff, right? They have, since 1906, and this is what's fascinating to me, since 1906, okay, so for over a century, they have a 77% win rate in international competition.
What? 77%? Wow.
Yeah. And what's really even more astounding, and I know there's a Maori culture and there's all this stuff, people will want to make excuses, but the country has the population of Phoenix.
Yeah.
So the country is about 4 million people.
Yeah, it's a small country, yeah.
Yeah, that's the same size as Phoenix. right?
Amazing.
So how do you do that for over a century competing with, I mean, think of our talent pool in the US, right? Over 300 million people. We've got almost literally 100 times more people than they do. How are we not, because we haven't focused on it, we're not doing it, but we're also not executing the same kind of way. So I think that's a great analogy that's maybe not going to get people riled up quite as much, but there are a lot of great examples in sport on both sides of that coin. They're dysfunctional cultures, they're really high level cultures. You see those in some of the repetitive winning, but also the way people talk about. This last weekend, I was with a friend talking about his business, and on the TV behind us, they were doing, we didn't hear the sound, but it was John Wooden and the UCLA Bruins from like 1969 or to 73 or something, and their championships and their values pyramid, the success pyramid and all this. And they had all these people, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Larry Bird, a list of who's who in basketball, talking about how wonderful he was, how great it was, how it affected their career, and it all started, they kept going back to this pyramid.
Pyramid, that was the clarity. That took the shape of what he expected from the players. Absolutely.
Exactly. He was explicit about expectations and then supported them to achieve it. And the results are, indisputable.
And placed each player where you said where they belong in terms of
absolutely
their own skill set and experience and so on. Yeah, very
well.
true.
That brings up a great point too, though, Sanjay. The clarity is it's not comprehensive. It's not everything. We fully acknowledge there are other things that have to get done. There are other moving parts in your business, right? But if you don't start with this is what the role is, these are the two most important things that you're going to do. If you do these things, you are likely to be successful in the role. Here's how you do it. Here's the play and the process. What help do you need to be able to execute it better? Yes, do you want to do it? By the way, almost nobody does that in the interview process. I've got to the point where I have my clients hand people the number one process they're going to do, whatever it might be. Look at it. It's a one-page checklist. Are you cool with doing this 5 times a day, every day?
Yeah,
right? Understand that.
Yeah. I know, Coach Mackey, we have some business owners in the audience. So
sure,
from their vantage point, what is, I think a lot of us struggle actually to what I call is find the ideal, profitable, long-serving one customer. It goes under the whole umbrella of target customers. How can clarity help there? Because of course, we want to do well, we want to grow, we don't want to die in 10 years.
Right.
How does clarity play a role there?
Thanks. That's a great question, because we've been talking about all the internal stuff, right? And clarity is super important around the target customer and who you serve as well. And I have a real problem with the traditional demographic definitions.
Yeah.
Okay, because it tries to bucket and pigeonhole people on things that, among other things, they don't have any control over.
Yeah.
Right. And it also doesn't get at their psyche and stuff. So like in that healthcare world, that model, the physical therapy model, right? We were told for years and years that the 40-year-old female was your target customer because she made the decisions for 7 other people in healthcare and right? Sanjay, think about bringing 40 random or 100 random 40-year-old women together and putting them in a room. What are they going to agree on?
Not much.
Yeah, not much is the right answer, right? What car to drive, what religion they are, how to raise their kids, where they shop. I mean, not much. So it doesn't give us any insight.
Interesting. You're saying that was generalized to the nth degree. I see what you mean.
Oh yeah, and hey, I've sat in on the young entrepreneurs thing with my daughter. We're still teaching the demographic model, and it sticks around. It's stubborn because they're easy to count.
I see.
Okay, so if I'm going to go raise money from the Angels Fund, and I can tell you what the size of market is. The problem with that is what I'm doing isn't gonna resonate with everybody in that traditional demographic. So unless we're trying to be, Facebook or Amazon or something, we don't need to play the bell curve. We actually, the more we niche down, the more we focus on who that individual is, more from a behavioral values, motivational standpoint, the more successful we're going to be. And like, again, we'll go back to that medical kind of practice model. When I ask physical therapist practice owners, who's your favorite patient? This is where they get stuck on the target customer all the time, because they get really confused because they're trying to use the traditional demographic models, right? And they're sitting there like, oh, well, I don't know. I've got an 83-year-old tennis player, and I've got a 60-year-old woman with MS, and I've got a 17-year-old, cross-country runner, and I've got, all these different, and it doesn't fit for them. And it's like, well, yeah, but what do they have in common? Right? Because they do. There's an attitudinal common thread. There's a behavioral common thread. There's a values and priorities common thread. And that's where we want to get to the psychographic and behavioral model of who that individual is. Because that person, by the way, the other thing is, unless you're selling something that's only for Medicare recipients or what have you, right? Your age or something like that, the age thing might be less and less relevant. Right, the gender thing might be less and less relevant. The ethnicity, the where they live, all this stuff becomes less and less relevant, because if I know exactly who I want, well, if I know what their attitudes and beliefs and behaviors are, now what's my marketing message? Right. So I had this app posed one time. So here's a quick little exercise, right? I want everybody to write a letter. Go ahead, write a letter.
Write a letter right now?
Yeah, what's your question? What do you have a letter to write? So, the first question is, who am I writing it to?
Yep.
Right? Okay, well, you're writing it to this person that believes in these things, that has these attitudes, that's motivated by this and all. Okay, why am I writing a letter? Because you can help them solve their problem, or, the example I first heard was, you're writing a letter, write a letter. And everybody's like, well, what? They're kind of stuck. It's like, you're writing a letter to Aunt Sally. Pretend you have an Aunt Sally. Like, okay, what am I going to write to Aunt Sally? You want to get her, cookie recipe from Thanksgiving. Boom, right? Super easy to write the letter now. But if you don't know who you're writing it to and why you're writing it, and that's what, their messages coming in on the marketing stuff, yeah, it gets us all riled up, because we're out there doing whatever we're told we're supposed to do or what have you. But we've got to, if we know who we're trying to connect with and what it's about, then it becomes far, far easier to write the right letter, to write the right marketing copy, to write the right email, to do the right video, because it's going to be relevant and important to the people that you actually want to, you're focused on helping.
Well, absolutely. So let's take some questions from the audience, Coach McKee. Go ahead, please, folks. You can unmute your mic and ask Coach McKee some questions if you have. I see a lot of good points in the chat. So thank you all for that.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah.
I'll just say I love what you're talking about. It's I'll call it in my wheelhouse. I see this dysfunction all the time.
Yep.
The lack of communication, the lack of clarity of communication, the lack of direction with leadership, and telling everybody in the organization where the ship is going. So somebody in the back of the boat is going to the right, and somebody in the front of the boat is going to the left, and that's not working. But all of these things, I feel like I feel like we need to, like you and I and a bunch of other people, need to create a consortium, a leadership consortium that all these companies can come to get all of our expertise. I'm kind of, we laugh about that a little bit, but in a way, I'm kind of serious about that, because I see this all the time. Look, I've been around for many decades, and I've run organizations, I've been part of organizations, I've had my own companies, and I see it time and time again, all of these little flaws that add up to a great big ball of, oh my, football, basically. Right. I go on and on with, sitting in meetings, and we decide that we're going to do X, Y, and Z over the next 60 days to see, how things are working. And 2 weeks later, somebody wants to change the plan. So, it goes on and on and on with all of these things. it's crazy, but you know, your messages are right on. And I love your analogies about baseball and so forth. I think that's perfect. I never thought about that. And I also love that you had to ask your wife, which is what maybe why I'm divorced, because I never asked her that question.
I've tried hard to stay married, Arthur. I've tried really hard. So far, so good.
Good.
Hemant, you had a question, Hemant? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was actually wondering, when I initially saw the topic of the discussion, I actually thought that you were going to talk about the clarity of the purpose to the owner of the business itself, versus clarity of the role of individuals who are on your team.
Well, it's an important one, and that's actually where I finished the book, is in the higher purpose for the business and the owner and all. And it is critically important. I think people don't connect the dots though without having the understanding of why it's important to all the other players on the team. If the coach knows the strategy but the players don't, right? Or the coach knows where we're trying to get to but the players don't, or the players don't know, the granular important pieces of their role and how it contributes to the overall team, then I mean, that's actually a big problem for some organizations. Like I saw somebody, this is one of the, somebody just kind of going after some of these angel funded companies and saying, your customer doesn't care how great a pedigree your leadership team and C-suite have, right? Your customer doesn't care that you guys went to Harvard or Stanford or whatever. What they care about is the interaction with your frontline employees. And you're missing the boat, So yeah, I think that's a great point, and that is where I kind of finish after making the case that, hey, it's important throughout.
So for a business owner, I mean, we talked about the target customer is one of the important parts of the clarity, and second is aligning a proper purpose, for at the top level, but also aligning it at the departmental level or whatever teams they have. I guess so. That's two, but there is one more missing block there, which is I would say when it's a smaller business, Coach McKay, right? There's a lot of focus on the one hand finding that ideal customer, right? The one who your, for lack of better terms, your anchor tenant, if you may. So there's one focus there because that's what keeps the business going, and making that customer happy. But then of course there is also the focus on finding kind of new customers, right? Which I know Hemant and his team works a lot on. So I guess the challenge is again clarity in terms of focus, right? So how do you balance the two, right?
Sanjay, I have a slightly different perspective why I was asking this question.
Okay, go ahead.
So you may have a clarity on the objective of the business and everything, but then the next question comes, I want to acquire new customers. Growth is important to me. And the question is, how much should I invest in the business to grow? Because at the beginning, you get lucky, you get 3, 4, 5 customers. Then you start to actually have a challenge to say that, hey, I mean, whether the revenue is coming in is enough, or what is the true potential of this business? Can this get 10x? And to get to 10x, how much money should I invest? And how much of a time frame should I actually invest it for? Because most teams end up, doing all the hard work, and probably at the 90th percentile, they lose the resources and the patience to continue to invest, simply because they don't have a very clear idea of, will this work or will this not? Do you have a framework which can define or help somebody formulate this, that, this is what you should do, or what are the stages at which you should do checkpoints?
That's a great question. I'm not kind of have a framework. There's certain milestones in a company and the growth and the organization where the complexity, I'm more used to looking at it from the perspective of, your processes and systems that 10 employees won't get you past 25, and then 25 won't get you past 50. And, there are these kind of predictable numbers of how big your team is and that kind of side of things. As far as acquiring customers though, when we look at people, it has to be a big enough target customer base, right? It can't be so niche that that you're reliant really on 5 people, but depending upon what your price point is and whatever, right? But it's also not, I think the biggest mistake people go to is when they want to grow it, they start to try to peanut butter it. They smooth everything out and they dilute their offering versus taking and figuring out. So, let's use your analogy. You've got 10 clients, they love what you do, or maybe not all of them, maybe you love 6 of them and they love you, right? Ask them, why did you choose me? Why did you choose us? Why do you come back? Why did you refer your wife? Why did you send your friend? Because what the other thing that we lose sight of is there's something special about what you're doing. There's a reason those people have chosen you, and ask them. And that's actually a huge unfair advantage that you have as a smaller business, because you can talk to them, right? I've got a friend who works for a bigger company, is in charge of marketing, and he was so excited about telling me all about this project he was doing where they were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for focus groups and research to go out and talk to customers. And I'm like, dude, most of my clients could do that in the next 2 weeks, right? Picking up the phone and going into the office and saying, hey, can I buy you a coffee? They could go and do that on a shoestring budget, the same thing that they're trying to do in a bigger corporation. And part they're dealing with organizations, it's more complicated, but what makes us special? Why did you choose us? And instead of trying to be like everybody else, figure out where you can zag when everybody else is zigging, right? I think there's way too much pressure. We put pressure on ourselves to fit in. Dude, when we fit in, we're invisible. We're like everybody else. So I want to be special and different and unique in the eyes of my target customer. And then I want to take that and I want to make it more special and more unique, not less.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot about this, that, you should have focus. And eventually I discovered that in the search of focus, you should not become myopic.
True. Yeah. But what do I focus on? I mean, you're in the leadership position, right? You see the big picture and you see a big, broad field, but you need your team to focus on certain things. And again, prioritization. It's not to the exclusion of all else, but I got to do this first. This is the most important thing. And this is the next most important thing. And this is the third most important thing. And then there's, because again, a lot of times things will get pushed. I don't want one of those top 1, 2, or 3 things to be the thing that gets tabled till tomorrow or next week or whatever. I want those to get done. The less important stuff is the stuff that waits.
Can I suggest something?
Go for
Sure.
it.
Okay, sure. So I think one of the best jobs I had was I was the director for strategic partners for a company. It was a small, medium-sized company. And what I loved about it was the fact that we were taking, my team we were taking our customers and making them part of our company, in the sense that we want to help you. Okay. And to help you, you have the opportunity to tell us exactly what we can do differently for you to make you more successful, as well as taking our manufacturer of the product and saying, look, let's go and talk to the customer, or let's invite a roundtable with the customer, so the product that they need that will suit them. When you get everybody involved, everybody wins, because everybody knows that each entity is caring about the other entity, right? The more people you can get involved from these different divisions, or having marketing, having sales come in, having operations come in, having the customer come in, having the manufacturer come in, all of these things work together. I used to do seminars for our customers, for their customer, because if they're winning a customer, I'm winning them. you know, we've lost the sight of how we do, how this is like a world problem. How do we just help each other? That's all, just help each other. And it all kind of works out, but we lose sight of like, I have to win at all costs. Well, everybody has to win.
Yeah, and a great way to win is what you just said, Arthur. What does the customer need?
Yeah.
What do they want? Because if I'm satisfying additional needs, I can grow my business that way too, right? It's not a new customer isn't the only way to grow your business.
Right.
You can have additional offerings for the same customers as well. So, if they respect you, they already know, love, and trust you.
Right. And as we all know that acquiring a new customer is way more costly than keeping a customer.
Yeah, and not just money, right? Effort.
Right. Everything.
Yeah.
7 to 10 times, according to HBR and some surveys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, folks, this has been a great roundtable session. Anybody else have any questions before we let
I
Coach
just have-
Murphy go?
I just
Go ahead.
have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
How have people been responding to you, Sturdy, in terms of understanding this idea that you can't read people's minds, and so you better, clear this up for the people that were working for you?
Thanks. It's been really good so far. I mean, this is I think one of the reasons it took me so long to kind of land on this as a key message is, it should be so obvious. Right. And we assume, we take it for granted. And that's actually part of the whole message. We assume too much. And we expect that somebody else gets it when we've never been explicit about it, never had the conversation, never really laid it out. And then, again, the conversation, it's not me telling you, these are the two most important things. And you have to, it's like, okay, what we've kind of worked out is these are the two most important things in the world. What do you think? Right. And they're the ones doing it. So if you don't have this laid out already, ask them. Right? Because they have insights and expertise that they can bring to the table as well.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah.
But no, it's been great so far.
Great. Excellent.
So
It's very important.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Dr. Crawford. So one last question for Coach McKee before we let him go. Do you believe the new AI tools available like ChatGPT, Bard, and many more happening as we speak, are they going to help us make better mind readers?
Well, we still won't read anybody's mind, right? But I mean, they're tools. It's how we use them. Yeah. So, tools, in a lot of ways, tools are neutral, right? There are people who love money and there are people who are allergic to it, and but it's a tool, right? All these things are tools. So yeah, I think they can certainly help a great deal. I know I'm using them, but it's all in what your intent is and what you're trying to do with it. Yeah, because I'm hearing all kinds of things, including the evil effects of AI, but also then many of the positive effects it can have, right? Both ends. Right. So I think lots happening there, but definitely there's some possibilities where AI can help us be better organized, if you may, or be better functional in terms of once we have the right type of data, then we can do better analysis of that, and hopefully that helps us with more focus on the business, right? It all comes back to data.
So Sanjay, I don't know if you have heard about it, but Elon Musk's company Neuralink is the one which is trying to implant a chip in your brain so that you can read other people's thoughts.
I thought he wanted to slow AI down.
Yeah, it's been on both hands, and he just launched a new company, by the way, for AI. So
yeah, well, he's done so great with his others. So.
Something XAI or something, but great session, Coach McKee. Your contacts are here. I see that in the meeting chat. So feel free to reach out to the coach, and the link is also here as well in the chat to the new book.
Yeah, Sturdy, I'm picking up your book, Sturdy.
Yeah.
Sweet, I love it, Arthur. I look forward to your feedback too.
The only thing is once you pick up and read, make sure you please review it as well, because that helps. Amazon,
awesome. That would definitely help. Thank you so much.
Love for you to read one too. And you see where it comes together.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you all. And again, until our next roundtable, which is again next week at 1 p.m. I guess we have a little later slot. And this one is all about how to, more specific topic in the sense that it's on B2B marketing on LinkedIn, and ultimately how to use messaging and automation to get people to hopefully listen to your message, because there's so much of that going on. So, maybe this lady who is Alina Victoria and Franzel, and she's going to hopefully educate us on making sure that people don't disconnect in all the messages that we see. So it's a very interesting topic on B2B marketing on LinkedIn. So feel free to join us, and I'll send a link later on. But again, thank you, Coach McKee, and everybody here today to enjoy this nice session today. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Cheers.
Have a good day. Thank
You
you.
too.
Bye.
Bye.